Previous class, we have finished the basics of management. In this class, we'll be starting the second unit. That second unit is on production management. This is unit 2. This unit 2 focuses on production management. We'll be discussing different aspects of production management, various tools which are used to manage the production. And in this particular session, we'll be discussing one important concept, that is the concept of project. We'll be discussing the issues, the basic knowledge of what is a project, what is a project management, and what are the features of a project, and what are the steps in developing a project. So let's start. Let's have a quick overview of the content which I intend to cover in today's class. First, we'll be discussing the concept of project work. We'll see what is the project work, what are the distinguishing features of the project work, what makes a project work different from an ongoing industry. Next, we'll be discussing the project management. Project management is a specialized field. We'll be discussing about project management. Then we'll be discussing project planning. So what is project planning? What are the different things to be considered while planning for a project? We'll be discussing various functions of project planning, and towards the end we'll have a summary of the content which we will discuss in today's class. With this, the overview, let's move on to the content. Let's see what is a project. You have got you have seen various industries. We have got the mega industries like HAL in Bangalore or MRPL in Mangalore or in any other industries. We have got small scale industries, but we don't call these industries as project. On the other hand, we have seen the construction of bridges, construction of flyovers. These things we call as a project. So now this project differs from a regular industrial activity, but at the same time, please remember that starting an industry, that is the constructing and commissioning industry, is also a project. So the project is a one shot activity, that is, it is once and it may not be repeated again in the same form, and then it is a time limited activity. It has to be completed in a specific amount of time. It cannot go on forever. The project is not perpetual. Like any other organization, the project also is a goal oriented. The project has definite goals to be achieved within the limited amount of time, and the project requires the resources. But these resources are of varied types. It is not a fixed type of resource because the projects are different. Each project is different in its own nature, and all these resources are to be assembled and used for the project. So the project can be defined as a one short, time limited, goal oriented and major undertaking which requires the commitment of varied skills and resources. That is a brief definition of project. Another way of looking at project is the project is a combination of both human resources as well as non-human resources. So project can be defined as a combination of human resources as well as non-human resources, and both these resources are pulled together In an organization, that organization is temporary in nature. So we are making a temporary organization for a project, and this temporary organization has got definite purpose and definite the objectives. So we can also define the project as a combination of human and non-human resources pulled together in a temporary organization to achieve specific purpose. Now, let us see the various characteristics of a project. A project has got five important characteristics which distinguishes itself from an ongoing industrial activity. The first is it is a one time activity. It is not a repeating type of activity. So that is one of the main feature of a project is it is a one time activity, and the project has got a working style which is different from the regular industrial working. The normal hierarchy of the industry may not work in a project. At the same time, like any organization, like any activity, the project has well defined objectives. The objectives are there, and these objectives are to be achieved by the time the project completes. In a project, there is no linear hierarchy like regular the industrial organization structure. In a regular structure, there will be a linear hierarchy, but typically in a project, this is going to be the structure. So in a project, there will be a sponsor. So one person will be the sponsor. The sponsor is somebody who spends money for the project, and then at the top of the project, there will be decision makers. So these decisions are made in consultation with the sponsors because the project is designed as per the need of the sponsor, the person who initiates, who wants the project. Then after this decision maker, there is going to be a project manager. The project manager is a person who is in charge of the overall working of the project. And then we have got the project teams. The crux of the matter lies here. The various project teams are formed, and these project teams work independently, and they coordinate their activities and report the progress to the project manager. This is the usual the structure of the project, which is different from the linear the structure which we discussed in our earlier in our first session. In the first session we discussed about line organization, we discussed about line and staff organization, we discussed about functional organization, but the project the organization structure does not fall into those typical the categories. Next, the project is not a product. The project is a process. If you are building an overbridge, the overbridge is a product, but that work of building the overbridge, that is the process. That exactly is the project. So the project is not the final product. The working process of making the product is the project. And then let's discuss each of these activities in a greater detail. We said the project is a one time activity. If it is a one time activity, there should be a definite start time and there should be a definite end time. That is, a project will have a definite start time, but will have a definite end time. That means the project will start at a specified time and it will end at a specific the time. What it implies is that the project is not a permanent activity. The project is not perpetual. All project will have to come one day or the other. That means all projects will have to end one day or the other. Maybe sometimes the projects get delayed. Even the delayed projects will end on some date. So that is the project is not a permanent activity. A permanent activity cannot be a project. Then, unlike the regular industries, there will not be a permanent organization structure in a project. So for a project, a project team is formed. So that is, we will have a project team for undertaking a project, and this team works till the completion of the project. Once that project is over, the project team is disbanded. We don't need the project team anymore because the project has come to its completion. That is about the building the project. And after this, the project is over, what the project members will do is they will be reassembled for another the project, the reorganized. In this reorganized the project, the same members will not be there. Some members will go to some other project of the company. Some other members from the some other project will be included in the new project which is being taken up. So the reorganization of the members takes place in the project. Second important characteristic is about different working styles. As we already seen, the hierarchical organization structure does not work in an organization. So as the project is a one-time activity, so this organization structure does not follow into a regular structure. So the things are done in a project differently from that of a regular industrial activity. That means the working of the project is different from the regular industrial activity. That is, it is some sort of a situational leadership. The people with varied skills are coming into a project with expertise in different fields, and they will contribute their knowledge of that field into the project team. That's how the project work with the different styles. The third is well defined objectives. The project will have a very clear cut objectives. What is to be done will be clear, will be specified right at the beginning. The project will start only with an understanding of what exactly is to be done and what exactly is to be delivered at the end of the project. That is, a well defined objectives is always the part of the project. That is, the project will have a clearly well defined the goals and objectives. It will be clear to all stakeholders. Everybody will be knowing what is to be achieved by undertaking this project. These objectives will have to be clearly specified in terms of three parameters. One is the cost. Right at the beginning, we have to be very clear about the cost between the client and the company. This understanding will be arrived at right at the beginning. What is going to be the cost of the project? And secondly, what is going to be the schedule of the project? That is, when the project is going to be ended and when the final outcome will be final, the product of the project is going to be delivered to the client. So these things are to be the clearly specified well in advance. And the third thing is the performance parameters. So what is to be delivered in terms of its performance is clearly arrived at right at the beginning of the project. At the type of initiating a project, these three things are to be clearly specified, and once these things are clear only the project is undertaken. Next is no linear hierarchy. If you see a regular organization structure industry, it will be like this: one person, below him there are two persons, and below him some more persons. So there is going to be a linear hierarchy in a regular organization structure, but in a project it is not going to be a regular hierarchy. It can be something like this: people are occupying different positions, and each person will have some amount of skill to contribute to the project. So it works more as a team effort for building, for completing the project. So that is, the project does not follow the normal organizational linear hierarchy that we have seen in our unit 1 in the organization structure. What does this do? By incorporating people of different skills, is that the project has got varied skills available for utilizing in the project. So that is, it can utilize the skills and the talents of people from several the professions, because the project team is formed by drawing people from different the professions and areas of the work, different disciplines. And sometimes the project key team may be drawn from across different organizations. That is, the members in different organizations can also form a project team. So because of this, a vast amount of knowledge and skill is available for undertaking the project. Next, as we already seen, the project is not a product. The project is a process. So that is, a way of doing it, a way of working is exactly a project. So the project is a process of working. That is, the project is a process of working to achieve a specific goal. And in this working process, there are three M's. So, three M's are the main resources in this working process. One M is men. We need the people. We need people of different skills and abilities drawn from different areas, because the project is complex. It will involve different it will involve the integration of the different the skills. And another M is the material. We will need a large number of material for the project. And in addition, we'll be discussing, we'll be utilizing the money for the project. So these are the three M's in a project. Now let's come to project management. The project management is a specialized branch of management. So that means it requires certain specialization about project management, which is different from the regular management. So it's a specialized branch of management which includes its own organization structure, which is different from the regular organization structure. It includes its own process planning. So this is process planning is slightly different from the regular industrial process planning. It involves its own control mechanisms to monitor the progress of the project, and it is built on the human relations. When the people of different the skills work together, when people drawn from different areas of the work together, maintaining a good human relation is also very important part of the project management. The project management is concerned with achieving the overall goals. Finally, the purpose of all management is to achieve the goals. If the goals are achieved, management is function successful. If the goals are not achieved, management is a failure. So the achieving the goals is the crux of the matter, and this goals has to be achieved within the stipulated time, because the project will have a specific end date, and it should be finished within the available resource. The resource which is allocated for the project is to be used, and the project has to be completed within the resource. That is the need of project management. And the project is a typically a time bound activity, and usually the same project is never repeated. If you are building a big bridge is a project, you may be building another bridge But that bridge will not be the exact replica of the first bridge, because the river is different, the terrain is different, the type of construction is different. So even if you are building another similar the structure, but they are not exactly same, it requires a different planning, different the idea for the next project, even if it is similar to the previous one. The Coming to the project planning, planning is nothing but thinking before doing. That is for initiating any work, the planning is to be done. Similarly, for initiating project, a planning is a initial step for a project. And this planning is a very, very important task. If the planning is not proper, all the future work will be affected by that. If the planning is meticulous, the future works are going to be easy. Sometimes after doing a lot of work, we may have to redo the work because of the fault in the initial planning. So the planning is a very, very critical task. If you don't do proper planning, it may be something like this: you reach the top of the ladder to realize that the ladder is leaning against the wrong wall. So the planning is a very, very important step in the project. So the planning is to be done extremely carefully. And the for planning, the projects are broken down into smaller the groups and the tasks, and separately the planning is done by the smaller group for the task taken on hand by that group. Here, while breaking down the project into smaller tasks, we have to list all the tasks and then assemble all the tasks in a particular working sequence. If we complete all these tasks which we have identified and which you have assembled, if all these tasks are completed, the project is going to be completed. And next step is, for doing all these steps, what is the estimated time duration? What is the time taken for completing all this the task? And the third is, what are the resources which are required for all these activities? If we have a clear idea of these three things, it means we have a thorough idea of the project. That means project planning is in order. Let's come to the key elements of a successful project planning. It all starts with the stakeholders. Finally, stakeholders are the people who have got something to gain or something to lose by the project. If the project is done very well, the stakeholders will be benefited. If the project is done badly, the same stakeholders may be adversely they affected. The stakeholders include the client as well as the users of the project. For example, if the government is constructing a road, the government is also a stakeholder, but the people who are using the road, the general public, are also the stakeholders. So the stakeholders consideration first and foremost in a project planning. Next is project objectives. What is that we want to achieve, and what is that we want to give to the stakeholders? So that is the another essential aspect of project planning. Next is deliverables and due dates. So what are the things which are going to be delivered in the project, and at what time, what are the due date for delivering? Then as per that, project schedule is prepared, and afterwards the roles and responsibilities of each person in the project team is defined. Budget estimation is done for the project, and then a communication plan among the project members is devised, and then the tracking tools and management tools for monitoring the progress of the project are devised. These are the key elements of the project planning. Let's come to the functions of project planning. One of the important aspect of project planning is market survey. The market survey tells us exactly what is whether the project is feasible or not, whether the project can be taken on hand or not. That depends on the survey conducted in the market. And then after conducting the survey, if you think that this project is viable, it can be taken up. Next is capacity planning. That is, what is the money which you are going to invest in this project, and what is the quantity of the output we are expecting from the project. So that is capacity planning. And then we have the selection of site. The selection of site in the company, we have to select the site at two levels. One is the general, the site selection, and one that's a specific site selection. Next is the plant layout. We'll have to make a thorough layout of the plant. And finally, we will have to design the work which is going to be done, whether it is a structure or industry or any a new machine. So this design is to be prepared, and this design has to be represented in terms of the drawings. Material requirement planning for the project is to be done, and operation planning for the project is also to be done. So these are the different things which are the various functions of project planning. Now let's come to market survey. Market survey is a commercial activity. That is, it is a survey of the commercial viability of the project, whether this project is suitable. So that is the suitability of the business is arrived by the market survey. So market survey has its objective of systematic collection of data, recording of data, and analysis of data, and interpretation of data about the existing market as well as potential market for a product or service. That means the what are the future prospect of a project is identified through market survey. For this, a lot of data is to be collected, recorded, and analyzed. Let us see the objectives of the market survey. So market survey is done to find out the future of the proposed the products. So that is, whether this product will be sold in the market, whether this product has got the future prospects. So this is identified through survey. And second thing is done for gathering information about the location of the market and about the scope of the sales and purchase habits of the customers. All these data are identified through the market survey. Market survey will also help us to identify the availability of raw materials for that project, availability of the required labor, and any other facilities which are required for the project. Let's see how do we do a market survey. The market survey, the first step is arriving at the sample size. We cannot collect data from all the customers, so we have to collect data from a sample. This sample should be a representative one. If we don't take a representative sample, our analysis will go wrong. This is a total population, but we will be taking only a representative sample from the total population for the survey. Next is, you will prepare a list of questionnaires, or you may use an interview schedule. You may go for observation. We will have some tools for data collection, and we will request the people to provide data so that we will have sufficient data for analyzing about the viability of the project. Then the we will have to collect data using the questionnaire. We'll have to administer either physically or through online or through mail. We have to administer the questionnaire and we have to collect the data. And then we have to devise the questionnaire in such a way that we should be able to easily summarize the data. That is, the data should be easily quantifiable and the answer should be easily the identifiable, and this answer should help us to come to some conclusion. So that is, we have to identify various variables, then analyze data, and finally the data are reported. Usually, it will take about the 4 to 6 weeks for doing a project survey. Second is project capacity planning. The project capacity planning will tell us about the money invested for the project and the means of collecting money for the project, and it will tell the demand, how much we can sell in the market. That is the project, the capacity planning. So it will also tell us whether the project, the demand is regular or fluctuating. Some of the some of some of the projects are flexible. Some of the products will have the regular demand. Some of the products will have fluctuating demand. So those things will be specified. This will also tell about the power requirement, about the water requirement, about the land requirement, about the raw material. Everything together is the project, the capacity, the planning, and this will also include identifying the type of business organization that is suitable. Finally, let's have a quick summary of what we discussed in today's class. We discussed the concepts of management in the beginning of today's class. Then we discussed the various characteristics of a project. In fact, we discussed 5 prime characteristics of a project. And then we discussed about the project management. And we discussed the project, the planning and the need for the project planning. And we discussed various functions of project planning. And we discussed the market survey and the approach for the market survey. We also discussed about capacity planning. The further aspect of the plant layout and the selection of the site for the factory, those things are also important, which we'll be discussing in our next class. Thank you.